99.9% match. Parent-child relationship confirmed. My hands and feet wouldn't stop shaking. Under the word father, the man's name glowed. Richard Morrison. Richard Morrison. The man I had known as my stepfather for 32 years. I dropped my phone. It hit the kitchen tile with a clatter and fell to the floor. I didn't move. I couldn't move. The email was still open on my laptop, those 3 numbers etched into my eyes. 99.9%. But this was impossible. Translated with DeepL.com, free version, Mom married Richard when I was 3. She told me my real father left before I was born, some deadbeat who wanted nothing to do with us. Richard stepped in, gave us his name, raised me. Except he didn't raise me, not really. He tolerated me. And now this test, this stupid ancestry test I'd taken for a genetic screening before trying to get pregnant, was telling me he was my biological father. The room tilted. "Babe," Jake's voice came from the bedroom. "You okay?" I couldn't answer. My throat had sealed shut. Footsteps. Then Jake appeared in the doorway, hair messy from sleep, concern creasing his face. He saw the spilled coffee, saw me frozen in place. "Emma, what happened?" I pointed at the laptop. He moved closer, squinted at the screen, read the results. His eyebrows shot up. "Wait, Richard. Your stepfather, Richard." I nodded, once sharp. "That can't be right." Jake grabbed my phone from the floor, opened the app, checked again. Same results, same numbers, same impossible truth. There has to be a mistake. Labs screw up all the time. It's not a mistake. The words came out flat, dead, because somewhere deep in my chest, past the shock and confusion, something clicked into place. Something I'd felt my entire life but never understood. Why Richard looked at me the way he did. Why he kept his distance. Why every conversation between us felt like walking through a minefield. Why my mother's eyes filled with something like guilt every time I asked about my real father. "I need to go." I pushed past Jake, headed for the bedroom. "Go where?" "Richard's house." "Emma, wait." Jake caught my arm. "You can't just show up there with this. Think about it first." I yanked free. Think about what? That my entire life is a lie. That my mother lied to me. That the man who barely looked at me for 3 decades is actually my father. My voice cracked on the last word. Jake reached for me again, but I was already moving, pulling on jeans, grabbing my keys. "At least let me come with you." "No." I slammed the apartment door before he could argue. The drive to Richard's house took 23 minutes. I counted everyone. Counted every red light, every turn, every breath that felt like swallowing glass. My mother died 6 years ago. Cancer. Aggressive, 3 months from diagnosis to death. She took her secrets with her. Or so I thought. Richard lived alone now in the same house where I grew up. 2-story colonial, neat lawn, everything in its place, always in its place. That was Richard. Controlled. Distant. A man who preferred order over emotion, silence over confrontation. I parked on the street, stared at the house. The morning sun hit the windows, making them look like blind eyes. My phone buzzed. Jake, I ignored it. Another buzz. A text this time, "Please don't do this alone." I turned the phone off. The walkway to the front door felt longer than I remembered. My legs moved on autopilot, muscle memory from a childhood spent approaching this house with caution, never knowing what mood I'd find inside. Not anger. Richard never yelled, never hit, just coldness, distance, the kind that makes you feel like you're shouting into a void. I rang the doorbell. Waited. Footsteps inside, slow, measured, the door opened. Richard stood there in khakis and a button-down shirt, even though it was Sunday morning. He never wore casual clothes. never relaxed. At 63, he looked exactly like he always had. Gray hair combed back, sharp jaw, pale blue eyes that gave nothing away. Those eyes narrowed when he saw me. Emma. Not a greeting, just acknowledgement. We need to talk. It's 7:30 in the morning. I don't care. Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe. I'd never pushed back before, never demanded anything from him. He stepped aside, let me in. The house smelled the same, pine cleaner and old coffee. Everything looked the same, too. Same furniture. Same family photos on the mantel, except they weren't family photos, were they? They were lies. Carefully arranged lies. I turned to face him. He stood by the door, arms crossed, waiting. I took a DNA test, I said. His expression didn't change, didn't even blink. For genetic screening, before Jake and I try to have a baby. My voice stayed steady, cold, borrowed from him. The results came back this morning. Still nothing, just that blank stare. You want to tell me why it says you're my biological father? Silence. Long, heavy, the kind that presses against your ear. Rums. Then Richard moved, walked past me into the living room, sat down in his usual chair, the leather one by the window, his throne. I'm not having this conversation before coffee. The audacity of it hit me like a slap. 32 years of secrets, and he wanted coffee. I followed him, stood over him. You don't get to deflect this. I'm not deflecting. He looked up at me, and for the first time in my life, I saw something in his eyes that wasn't indifference. I'm buying time to figure out what to say. The truth would be nice. The truth, he laughed, once bitter. You want the truth? Fine, yes, I'm your biological father. Your mother and I were together before you were born. Then we weren't. Then we were again, happy now. The floor seemed to drop away. Hearing him say it out loud made it real. Final. No lab error, no mistake. Why did she lie to me? She didn't lie. She told you what you needed to hear. I needed to hear that my father abandoned me. You needed to hear that I chose to stay. Richard stood, moved to the window. Your mother thought it would be easier, for both of us, if you believed I married into this family instead of, he stopped, jaw tight. Instead of what? Instead of being forced into it. The words landed like stones. Forced. Mom was pregnant. Her family, your grandmother especially, wasn't having it. Unmarried. Young. She gave me two choices, marry her and pretend the timeline worked out or disappear completely. He turned to face me. I chose to stay. Why? Because I loved her. Past tense. Loved, not love. But you didn't love me. Richard's face hardened, back to the mask. I raised you, put a roof over your head, paid for your education. That's not what I asked. He said nothing. Of course he said nothing. I'd spent 32 years waiting for warmth from this man, for approval, for anything resembling affection. Now I knew why it never came. He never wanted me in the first place. Emma. Don't, I held up my hand. I need to leave. I was at the door when his voice stopped me. Your mother made me promise not to tell you, ever. She thought it was better this way. I looked back at him. Better for who? He didn't answer. I left. I didn't go home, couldn't face Jake's questions yet, couldn't face anyone. Instead, I drove. No destination, just movement. My mind wouldn't stop spinning, replaying every moment of my childhood through this new lens, every stilted conversation, every time Richard looked at me like I was a stranger in his house, every time I tried to hug him and felt him stiffen. He resented me. The thought settled in my chest like ice. He resented me because I was the reason he married my mother, the reason he got trapped. And my mother, God, my mother, she knew. She knew I was growing up with a father who wished I didn't exist, and she said nothing. Chose nothing. Let it happen. My phone rang. I turned it back on without thinking. Jake's name flashed on the screen. I answered. Where are you? His voice was tight with worry. Driving. Did you see him? Yeah. And he confirmed it. Everything. He's my father. Mom lied, it's all true. Jake exhaled slowly. Come home, please. We'll figure this out together. I can't yet. What did I need? I need to think. Okay, but Emma, I love you. Whatever this is, whatever you're feeling, I'm here. I know. I hung up. The GPS showed I was near my mother's sister's house, Aunt Linda. She lived 40 minutes outside the city in a ranch-style home surrounded by oak trees. She would know. She had to know. I changed direction, headed toward her neighborhood. Linda was older than Mom by 5 years, which put her at 70 now. Still sharp, still active, still the family historian who kept every photo album, every letter, every scrap of memory. If anyone had answers, it was her. I pulled into her driveway 15 minutes later. Her car was there. Good. I knocked. Linda answered wearing gardening gloves, dirt smudged on her cheek. Her face lit up when she saw me, then immediately fell. Emma, honey, what's wrong? Everything was wrong. Can I come in? Of course. She stepped aside, stripped off her gloves. You look terrible. Have you eaten? Let me make you something. I don't need food. I need answers. Linda froze. About what? About Richard. About Mom. About why everyone in this family lied to me for 32 years. Her face went pale. You know, I said, don't you? Linda's shoulders sagged. Sit down. We moved to her kitchen. She poured 2 glasses of water, sat across from me. Her hands trembled slightly. How did you find out? DNA test. Medical reasons. Doesn't matter how. Just tell me I'm not crazy. Tell me this is real. It's real. Linda's voice was soft, sad. Your mother and Richard dated in college, got pregnant. My mother, your grandmother, she was furious. Said they had to get married immediately, make it look proper. So they did. Courthouse wedding. No. Celebration, just paperwork. And Mom told me he was my stepfather. She thought it would be easier, less complicated. Richard agreed to the story. Said it was better for everyone if you believed he chose to be your father, not that he was obligated. Obligated. There was that word again. Did he ever want me? Linda's eyes filled with tears. I don't know, honey. Richard loved your mother, I believe that. But you, I think he saw you as the reason his life went off course. And your mother, she tried to protect you from that, tried to make it work. But he never warmed up, did he? I shook my head. Your mother blamed herself. Thought if she'd been braver, if she'd stood up to our mother, things would have been different. She carried that guilt until the day she died. The ice in my chest spread, grew heavier. Why didn't she tell me before she died? She had time, 3 months. She could have said something. She was scared you'd hate her, scared it would ruin the memory you had of her. Linda reached across the table, grabbed my hand. She wasn't perfect, Emma, but she loved you more than anything in this world. I pulled my hand away. If she loved me, she wouldn't have let me grow up thinking my father abandoned me. She wouldn't have let me spend my whole life trying to win over a man who saw me as a burden. Emma, I need to go. I stood. Linda stood too, tried to follow me to the door. Wait, there's something else. I stopped. Your mother kept journals, years' worth. They're in storage, my storage unit. I saved them after she died, thought maybe someday you'd want them. Journals. My mother's words, her thoughts, her truth. Where? Linda gave me the address, the code. Take whatever you need. Maybe it'll help you understand. Maybe. Or maybe it would just confirm what I already knew. That my entire life had been built on lies. The storage facility was industrial. Gray walls, fluorescent lights, rows of identical units. I found Linda's, punched in the code. The door rolled up with a metallic screech. Boxes, furniture, old lamps, everything covered in dust. And in the back corner, on a shelf marked with my mother's handwriting, 5 leather-bound journals. I pulled them down, sat on the concrete floor, opened the first one. The date inside was 33 years ago. 1 year before I was born. My mother's handwriting stared back at me, neat and careful. September 12th, I'm pregnant. Richard doesn't know yet, I'm terrified. I turned the page. September 15th, told Richard today. He went silent, didn't yell, didn't cry, just sat there. Finally said, "What do you want to do?" Like I had options. Like Mother would ever let me choose anything but marriage. Another page. September 20th, we're getting married. Courthouse. Richard agreed. He says he loves me. But when he looks at me now, I see something different. Something like resentment, or maybe just fear, I don't know anymore. My hands shook, the words blurred. I kept reading. Page after page, month after month, my mother's voice, raw and honest, spilling out the truth she never spoke out loud. How Richard grew distant during the pregnancy. How he was kind but cold. How he held me once when I was born and then handed me to a nurse and left the room. How my mother tried to fix it, tried to make him love me, tried to be enough for both of us. How she failed. And how, eventually, she gave up and built the lie instead. The lie that Richard was my stepfather, that he chose us, that we were a family built on love instead of obligation. The lie I believed for 32 years. I closed the journal, pressed my forehead against its cover. The storage unit was silent except for my breathing. And for the first time since opening that email this morning, I cried. Not soft tears, not quiet grief. Big, ugly sobs that tore through my chest and left me gasping. Because my mother was gone, and I couldn't ask her why, couldn't demand answers, couldn't scream at her for choosing this path. All I had were her words in a journal, admitting she was wrong but too scared to fix it. And Richard, my father, who confirmed he never wanted me in the first place. I sat there for an hour, maybe more, lost track of time. When I finally stood, my legs were numb. My face felt swollen. I grabbed all 5 journals, locked the unit, walked to my car. Jake was calling again. I silenced it. I needed more time, more space, more answers. Because one thing was becoming clear as I sat in that parking lot, journals on my passenger seat. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. If my mother lied about Richard, what else did she lie about? What other secrets were buried in these pages? What other truths had the family kept hidden? I started the car. Headed home. But not to rest. To dig. To find every piece of this puzzle and force it into place, no matter how much it hurt. Because I deserved the truth. All of it. Jake was sitting on the couch when I walked in. He stood the moment he saw me, took eye. And my swollen eyes, the journals clutched against my chest. He didn't ask questions, just pulled me into his arms. I let him hold me for a minute, maybe 2, then I stepped back. I need to read these. Now. Now. He nodded, understood. That was Jake, always understanding. I'll make coffee, you want something to eat? No. I moved to the dining table, spread the journals out, 5 of them, years of my mother's life written in ink that had faded at the edges but remained legible, painful, real. Jake brought coffee, set it down without a word, kissed the top of my head, disappeared into the bedroom. I opened the second journal, picked up where I'd left off. March 3rd, Emma is 6 months old. Richard held her today for the first time since the hospital. I asked him to while I made dinner. He sat so stiff, like she might break, or like touching her hurt him. When I came back, he handed her to me immediately, didn't smile, didn't say anything, just went to his office and closed the door. I don't know how to fix this. The words punched through me. I remembered being a baby in pieces, photos, stories Mom told. But I didn't remember Richard, not in any of those early memories. He was always absent, always somewhere else. Now I knew why. I turned pages, faster. June 10th. Emma said "Dada" today, pointed right at Richard. He looked at her like she'd cursed. Then he left for work an hour early. Didn't come home until after she was asleep. I cried in the shower. Emma doesn't understand why her father won't look at her, and I can't explain it to her. Can't tell a 1-year-old that she's the reason her parents are miserable. November 22nd, Thanksgiving. Richard's parents came over. They fawned over Emma, kept saying how beautiful she is, how lucky we are. Richard barely spoke the entire meal. When his mother asked him to hold Emma for a photo, I saw it in his face, that flash of resentment. He held her, smiled for the camera, but his hands were tight on her sides, like he couldn't wait to let go. His mother pulled me aside later, asked if everything was okay. I lied, said we were fine, tired from the baby, but fine. I'm so tired of lying. My throat closed up. I set the journal down, picked up my coffee. It had gone cold. Across the room, the apartment was dark except for the lamp beside me. Jake had gone to bed. The clock showed 2:47 a.m. I'd been reading for hours. I should sleep, should stop, but I couldn't. Because with every page, the picture became clearer, sharper. My mother wasn't just protecting me from the truth. She was protecting herself, from facing what her marriage had become, from admitting she'd trapped a man who didn't want to be trapped, from accepting that love wasn't enough to fix the damage. I opened the third journal. January 8th. Emma is 3 now, smart, funny. She asked me today why Daddy doesn't play with her like other daddies. I didn't know what to say, told her Daddy was busy with work. She accepted it, but I saw the hurt in her eyes. How long can I keep doing this? How long before she realizes her father doesn't love her? The memory hit me so hard I had to close my eyes. I was 3, maybe 4, standing in the doorway of Richard's office. He was at his desk, papers spread everywhere. I had a drawing, something I'd made at preschool, wanted to show him. "Daddy." He didn't look up. "Daddy, look. I'm busy, Emma." But I made. Not now. I stood there, holding my drawing, waiting. He never looked. Eventually, I left, found Mom in the kitchen. She hung my drawing on the fridge, said it was beautiful, said Daddy would love it when he had time. He never looked at it. I opened my eyes, stared at the journal. That wasn't the only memory. There were dozens, hundreds, all the same pattern, me reaching out, Richard pulling away, Mom making excuses. I turned more pages, skipped ahead. September 15th. Emma started first grade. She made me promise to ask Richard to come to her school play next month. I promised. I shouldn't have. He'll say no. He always says no. I'm starting to realize this isn't going to change. He's never going to love her, never going to be the father she deserves, and I can't leave. Can't put her through a divorce. Can't admit that I failed. So I'll keep lying, keep pretending, keep building this false family until Emma is old enough to leave on her own. God, I'm so tired. I slammed the journal shut. Stood up, paced. My hands were shaking again, not from shock this time, from rage. My mother made a choice. Every single day, she chose this. chose to let me grow up with a father who resented me, chose to protect her own guilt instead of protecting me. And Richard. God, Richard. He stayed, played the part, paid the bills, showed up to graduations and birthdays with his face blank, his presence obligatory. He gave me nothing real, nothing warm. And my mother let him. I grabbed my phone, texted Linda. Did Mom ever try to leave Richard? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Once you were 5, she packed bags, stayed at my house for 2 nights, then went back, said it was for you, said you needed stability. Stability. That's what she said. I didn't agree, but she wouldn't listen. I threw my phone onto the couch. Stability, that's what she called it. Raising me in a house where my father looked through me like I was glass, where every attempt at connection was met with silence, where I learned to make myself small and quiet so I wouldn't be a burden. That wasn't stability. That was cruelty. I moved to the window, stared out at the city, lights everywhere, people awake, people sleeping, people living lives that made sense. Mine didn't make sense anymore. Everything I thought I knew about my family, my childhood, myself, was built on lies. And now I was standing in the rubble, trying to figure out what was real. But maybe that was the wrong question. Maybe the question wasn't what was real. Maybe it was what else are they hiding? I spent the next 3 hours digging. Pulled out every box from the hall closet. Old photo albums, birthday cards, school reports, documents my mother had saved. Things I'd ignored for years because they felt irrelevant. Now they felt essential. I found my birth certificate first, studied it under the lamp. Emma Catherine Morrison, born April 3rd. Father, Richard James Morrison. Mother, Caroline Ann Morrison. The date matched what I'd always known. But the marriage certificate, I found it tucked in the same folder, told a different story. Richard and Caroline were married February 28th, 5 weeks before I was born. 5 weeks. My mother was 8 months pregnant at her courthouse wedding. The timeline made sense now. The rush, the pressure from my grandmother, the lack of celebration. But something else caught my eye. The witness signatures. One was Linda. The other was a name I didn't recognize, Sarah Kemper. Sarah. I grabbed the 3rd journal, flipped through pages, found the entry from earlier. March 19th. Saw Sarah today at the grocery store. She didn't say hello, just stared at me, at my stomach. I wanted to apologize, wanted to explain. But what would I even say? Sorry I'm pregnant with your ex-boyfriend's baby. Sorry my mother forced him to marry me instead of you. Richard doesn't talk about her, pretends she never existed. But I know he thinks about her. I see it sometimes when he looks at me, that flash of something, regret, resentment, both. I hate that I took him from her, hate that he'll never forgive me for it. My pulse spiked. Richard had been with someone else, someone named Sarah, and my mother, my grandmother, had forced him to leave her. I grabbed my laptop, opened Facebook, searched Sarah Kemper. 3 results. 1 looked right, age matched, location, same city. I clicked. Her profile was mostly private, but her cover photo showed a family. Husband, 2 kids, everyone smiling. She'd moved on. But Richard hadn't. According to my mother's journals, he'd spent 30 years resenting the life he lost, the woman he lost. And I was the reason he lost her. I sat back, let that sink in. Richard didn't just resent me because I existed. He resented me because I destroyed his chance at happiness with someone else. The thought made me sick. But it also made something else click. If Sarah was at the wedding, if she witnessed it, she knew the truth. She knew about the pregnancy, about the forced marriage, about everything. Which meant she had answers, My mother couldn't give any more. I checked the time, 6:15 a.m. Too early to call anyone. Too early to show up at someone's door. But not too early to plan. Jake found me at 7, still at the dining table. Journals and documents spread everywhere. Coffee mug empty beside me. Did you sleep at all? No. He sat down across from me, took in the mess. What did you find? Everything. I pushed the marriage certificate toward him. They got married 5 weeks before I was born. My grandmother forced it. And Richard had a girlfriend, Sarah. My mother stole him from her. Jake studied the certificate. That doesn't mean your mother stole him. Read this. I handed him the journal entry. He read slowly, then set it down. Okay, so Richard was with someone else, but he still made a choice. He could have said no to your grandmother, could have fought back. He didn't. Because my mother got pregnant. That takes 2 people, Emma. I know that. My voice came out sharper than intended. I'm not defending him. I'm just trying to understand why my entire childhood felt like I was invisible. Jake reached across the table, took my hand. You weren't invisible, not to your mom, not to me, and definitely not to the people who actually matter. I wanted to believe him, but 32 years of feeling unseen didn't disappear with one reassuring sentence. I need to talk to Sarah. Jake's eyebrows rose. Richard's ex. She was at the wedding. She knows what happened, and I need to hear it from someone who isn't bad or lying. You think she'll talk to you? I don't know, but I have to try. Jake squeezed my hand. Okay, but not alone. I'm coming with you. Jake. Non-negotiable. You've been running on adrenaline and rage for 24 hours. You need backup. He was right. I hated that he was right, but he was. Fine. I messaged Sarah through Facebook at 9 a.m. Kept it simple, direct. Hi, Sarah. My name is Emma Morrison. I'm Richard Morrison's daughter. I recently found out some information about my parents' marriage, and I think you might be able to help me understand what happened. Would you be willing to talk? I know this is strange, but I'd really appreciate it. I hit send before I could overthink it. Stared at the screen. Nothing. Jake brought me toast. Eat. I'm not hungry. You haven't eaten in a day. Eat. I took a bite. It tasted like cardboard, but I forced it down anyway. My phone buzzed. Sarah had replied. I wondered if you'd ever reach out. Yes, I'll talk. Can you meet today? 2 p.m. There's a coffee shop on Maple Street, corner of 5th. My heart hammered. I'll be there, thank you. The hours between 9 and 2 crawled. I tried to distract myself, showered, changed clothes, pretended to eat lunch. But my mind wouldn't stop spinning. What would Sarah say? Would she confirm everything in the journals? Would she add more? Would she hate me for being the reason Richard left her? By 1:30, Jake and I were in the car. By 1:50, we were parked outside the coffee shop. It was small, quiet, local place with mismatched furniture and plants in the windows. We walked in, looked around. A woman in her early 60s sat in the corner, dark hair streaked with gray, green eyes. She looked up when we entered, her gaze locked on me. Recognition flashed across her face. She stood, walked over. You look like your mother. The words hit harder than they should have. Sarah. She nodded, gestured to the table. Sit, please. We sat, Jake beside me, Sarah across from us. She ordered tea. I ordered coffee I wouldn't drink. Jake got water. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Sarah broke the silence. I've thought about this conversation for 33 years. Never thought it would actually happen. Why not? Because Caroline made Richard promise never to tell you the truth. And Richard, she laughed, bitter. Richard always kept his promises to her, even when they destroyed him. "Tell me what happened," I said. "Please, I need to know." Sarah took a sip of tea, set the cup down carefully. "Richard and I dated for 2 years. We were planning to get engaged. Then Caroline got pregnant. Her mother, Margaret, showed up at Richard's apartment. Told him he had 2 choices, marry Caroline immediately or she'd make sure he never saw the baby, never even knew if it was his." "That's insane." "That was Margaret." Sarah's voice was flat. "Old school, religious, believed pregnancy out of wedlock was the worst sin imaginable. She wasn't going to let her daughter raise a bastard child." The word stung. "Richard came to me that night, told me everything, asked what he should do." Sarah's eyes met mine. "I told him to marry her, told him a child deserved a father, even if it meant losing him." "You told him to leave you." "I loved him enough to let him go." She smiled, sad. "Doesn't make it hurt less, but it was the right thing to do." Jake's hand found mine under the table. "Did you ever talk to him after?" "Once, at the wedding. I signed as a witness because Caroline asked. Thought it would give me closure. It didn't. Richard looked miserable the entire time. Caroline looked terrified, and I left knowing I'd just watched 2 people ruin their lives." "Why didn't Richard fight back? Why didn't he refuse?" "Because he's Richard." Sarah's voice softened. "He does what's expected, what's right. Even when it destroys him, that's who he is. Responsible, dutiful, trapped by his own sense of obligation." "Trapped?" That word again. "Did he ever," I stopped, swallowed, "did he ever love my mother?" Sarah was quiet for a long moment. "I think he cared about her. But love, real love, no, that belonged to someone else." "You?" "Me," she nodded. "And when he married Caroline, that door closed. Forever." I looked down at my coffee. It had gone cold. "I'm sorry," I said. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry you lost him because of me." "Don't." Sarah's voice was firm. "You didn't do anything wrong. You were a baby, an innocent. The adults in your life made choices, bad choices, but none of that is your fault." Tears burned behind my eyes. I blinked them back. "Did you ever see him again, after the wedding?" "No, I moved across town, got married a few years later, had kids, built a life." She glanced at her phone, a photo of her family as the lock screen. "I'm happy now. It took time, but I got there." "Does your husband know about Richard?" "He knows I had a serious relationship before him, that it ended badly. That's all he needs to know." Sarah leaned forward. "Emma, I don't know what you're looking for. Closure, answers, revenge. But whatever it is, make sure it's for you, not for your mother, not for Richard, for you." The words settled over me like a weight. For me. When was the last time I did something just for me? Instead of trying to please Richard. Instead of trying to honor my mother's memory. Instead of trying to be enough for people who would never think I was. "Thank you," I said, "for talking to me." "Any time," Sarah stood. "And Emma, for what it's worth, you deserved better from both of them." She left. Jake and I sat there, silent. Outside, the afternoon sun filtered through the windows. People walked by, normal people, living normal lives. I envied them. "What now?" Jake asked. "Now," I picked up my cold coffee, stared into it. "Now I find out what else they lied about." Because Sarah was right. The adults in my life made choices, and those choices shaped everything. But I was an adult now, too. And I was done letting their choices define me. We sat in the car for 10 minutes. Neither of us spoke. Jake kept his hands on the steering wheel, even though the engine was off. I stared out the window at people walking past. Normal people doing normal things. My phone buzzed. "Linda. How are you holding up?" I didn't answer. "Where to now?" Jake asked. "My grandmother's." His head snapped toward me. Margaret. She started this. She forced them together. I want to hear her explain why. Emma, she's 87 years old. And still alive, still able to answer for what she did. Jake exhaled slowly. This won't go well. I don't care. He started the car. Margaret lived in a retirement community 40 minutes north. Independent living. A small cottage with a garden she couldn't maintain anymore but refused to give up. I'd visited her 3 times since Mom died. Each visit felt like an obligation. Stiff conversation. Judgmental comments about my life choices. Always that look, like I disappointed her just by existing. Now I knew why. I was the inconvenient truth. The mistake that forced her daughter into a loveless marriage. We pulled into the parking lot. Jake turned off the engine. You want me to come in? No, wait here. Emma, I need to do this alone. He didn't argue, just squeezed my hand. I'll be right here. I walked to her door, knocked. Footsteps inside, slow, shuffling. The door opened. Margaret stood there in a floral dress, hair perfectly set, lipstick precise. She always dressed like she was expecting the queen. Her eyes narrowed when she saw me. Emma, this is unexpected. We need to talk. About what? About why you destroyed my mother's life. Her face hardened. Come in. The cottage smelled like mothballs and old furniture polish. Everything was beige. Beige carpet, beige walls, beige couch. Even the light felt colorless. Margaret gestured to the couch. I stayed standing. I don't have time for drama, Emma. Say what you came to say. I took a DNA test. Found out Richard is my biological father. Found Mom's journals. Found out you forced them to get married. Margaret's expression didn't change. I did what was necessary. Necessary. Your mother was pregnant, unmarried. Do you have any idea what that meant in our family, in our community? So you trapped 2 people in a marriage neither of them wanted. I saved your mother from shame, saved you from being born a bastard. You should be grateful. The word hit like a slap. Grateful, I grew up with a father who couldn't stand to look at me, who resented me every single day. And my mother, she spent her entire life lying to me, pretending everything was fine because of you. Margaret moved to her armchair, sat with perfect posture. Your mother made her choices. She could have given you up for adoption, could have moved away and raised you alone. She chose Richard. She chose that life. You didn't give her a choice. I gave her options. She picked the respectable one. My hands clenched into fists. Respectable? You call trapping a man who loved someone else respectable? You call forcing my mother into a marriage where she was miserable respectable? Better than the alternative. Which was what? Being a single mother, having people gossip. God forbid the precious family reputation get damaged. Margaret's eyes flashed, cold, sharp. You don't understand because you grew up in a different world, a world where consequences don't matter, where people do whatever they want without thinking about family, about honor, about duty. Duty, I laughed, bitter. You destroyed 3 lives because of duty. I protected my daughter, protected you, whether you appreciate it or not. I stared at her. This woman who raised my mother, who probably loved her in her own twisted way, but whose love was so wrapped up in appearances and control that it poisoned everything it touched. Did Mom ever tell you how unhappy she was? She told me she had a beautiful daughter and a stable home. That's what mattered. That's not what I asked. Margaret stood, walked to the window, looked out at her dying garden. Your mother called me once. You were 5, said she wanted to leave Richard. I told her no. Told her she made her bed and needed to lie in it. She never brought it up again. The confirmation settled in my chest like ice. You knew she was miserable. You knew Richard didn't love her, and you told her to stay. I told her to honor her commitments. You told her to suffer. Margaret turned. I told her to be an adult, something your generation doesn't understand. I moved toward the door, stopped, looked back at her. Did you ever think about me? About what it was like for me, growing up with a father who wished I didn't exist? For the first time, something flickered in her expression. Something that might have been regret or guilt, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared. You turned out fine. No thanks to you. I left, didn't wait for a response. Outside, Jake was leaning against the car. He straightened when he saw my face. That bad? Worse. I called Richard from the parking lot. He answered on the third ring. Emma, I need to see you again, now. Silence then. Why? Because we're not done talking. I told you everything. No, you told me facts. Now I want the truth. Another pause. Come over. Richard opened the door before I knocked, like he'd been waiting by it. He looked tired, older. The past 2 days had aged him. Good. Jake's staying in the car, I said. This won't take long. Richard stepped aside. Let me in. We stood in the hallway. Neither of us moved to sit. I talked to Sarah today. His face went pale. She told me you wanted to marry her, that my grandmother threatened you, that you left the woman you loved because of me. Emma, let me finish. My voice was steady, cold. I also talked to Margaret. She admitted she forced Mom to stay with you even when Mom wanted to leave. So now I need you to explain something. I stepped closer. Why didn't you leave? After I was born. After you did the honorable thing. Why stay in a marriage that made you miserable? Richard's jaw tightened. It's complicated. Uncomplicate it. He moved past me, into the living room, sat in his chair. That same leather chair where he'd spent 30 years hiding from his family. I followed, stood over him, waiting. I stayed because your mother asked me to. His voice was quiet. After you were born, I told her I wanted out, wanted a divorce. She begged me to give it a year, said maybe things would get better, so I did. 1 year turned into 2, 2 turned into 5, and somewhere along the way, leaving felt harder than staying. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. He looked up at me. I'm not a brave man, Emma. Never have been. Sarah knew that. Your mother knew that. And you figured it out eventually. So you just gave up. Decided to spend your whole life resenting the daughter you never wanted. I didn't resent you. Yes, you did. No, his voice rose, sharp. I resented myself for being too weak to fight Margaret, too scared to lose Sarah, too cowardly to leave your mother when I should have. You were just, he stopped. Just what? A reminder of every mistake I made, every choice I didn't make, every life I didn't live. The words hung in the air between us. I should have felt angry, should have yelled, should have made him suffer the way he'd made me suffer. But I didn't. Because for the first time, I saw him clearly. Not as the cold, distant father who rejected me, but as a man who spent 30 years trapped in a life he never chose, punishing himself, punishing everyone around him. A coward who was too afraid to be happy. Do you still love her? I asked. Sarah. Richard's hands gripped the armrests. That doesn't matter. It matters to me. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, yes, I think about her every day. Wonder what life would have been like if I'd been brave enough to choose her. Brave enough to walk away from your grandmother's threats and fight for what I wanted. Did you ever love Mom? I cared about her. She deserved better than what I gave her. But love, he shook his head. No. The honesty was almost worse than the lies. What about me? My voice cracked. Did you ever even once wish I was your daughter, not just biologically, but really, did you ever want me?" Richard's face crumpled. For the first time in my life, I saw emotion break through his mask. Real emotion, raw and ugly and painful. "I wanted to," his voice broke. "God, Emma, I wanted to, but every time I looked at you, I saw everything I'd lost, everything I'd given up, and I couldn't." He stopped, swallowed hard. "I couldn't separate you from that, couldn't love you without hating myself, and I'm sorry, I'm so goddamn sorry." Tears streamed down his face. I'd never seen him cry, never seen him show weakness. It should have felt like victory. It just felt sad. "I don't know if I can forgive you," I said. "I don't expect you to. But I need you to understand something." I moved closer, looked him in the eye. "You made choices, bad choices, but they were yours, not mine. I didn't ask to be born, didn't ask to ruin your life, and I won't carry your guilt anymore." Richard nodded, slowly. "You shouldn't, you never should have." "One more question. Anything. If you could go back, if you could do it all over, would you choose differently?" He didn't hesitate. "Yes." The answer should have hurt more than it did. But I'd known it already, known it my whole life. I turned to leave. "Emma," Richard's voice stopped me. "For what it's worth, you became a good person, despite me, despite everything. Your mother did that. She loved you enough for both of us." I didn't respond, just walked out. Jake drove us home in silence. His hand found mine halfway through the drive. I let him hold it. When we got back to the apartment, it was almost dark. The journals were still spread across the dining table. My laptop open, documents everywhere. I should have felt exhausted. Instead, I felt empty, hollowed out. Jake made dinner. I didn't eat, he didn't push. At 10 p.m., he went to bed. I stayed at the table. Stared at the journals. 4 of them I'd read, front to back, every painful entry, every moment of my mother's suffering laid bare. But the 5th journal, I'd barely touched it. It was thinner than the others, darker leather, more worn. I picked it up, opened it. The first entry was dated 5 years ago, 6 months before Mom died. November 3rd. The doctors say it's stage 4, aggressive, 6 months if I'm lucky, a year if I fight. I'm tired of fighting. My throat closed. I turned pages, faster. Entries about pain, treatment, decisions, fear. And then, near the end, something different. March 10th. I need to tell Emma the truth. She deserves to know before I die, deserves to understand why I made the choices I made. But how do I explain? How do I tell her I was a coward, that I chose comfort over her happiness, that I let her grow up believing she wasn't enough when the truth was I wasn't enough? I wrote her a letter, sealed it, but I can't bring myself to give it to her. Can't face the look in her eyes when she reads it. Can't bear to see her hate me. So I'm hiding it here, in this journal. Maybe someday she'll find it. Maybe she'll understand. Or maybe she'll never know. Maybe that's what I deserve. My hands shook. A letter. I flipped through the remaining pages, found it tucked in the back. An envelope, sealed, my name written on the front in Mom's handwriting. "Emma, open when you're ready." I stared at it. Ready? Was I ready? Did it matter? I broke the seal, pulled out 2 pages, folded, written in the same neat handwriting that filled the journals. "My dearest Emma, if you're reading this, then you know the truth, and I'm so sorry." The words blurred. I kept reading. "I failed you, not just once, but every day of your life. I told myself I was protecting you, giving you stability. But the truth is I was protecting myself, from admitting I made a mistake, from facing the reality that I trapped a man who didn't love me, from accepting that I was too weak to leave." You deserved a father who cherished you, a mother who fought for you, a family built on love instead of obligation. I gave you none of that. Richard and I, we were never meant to be together, but my mother wouldn't accept that, and I was too scared of her disapproval to stand up for myself, so I let her bully us into marriage, let her convince me it was the right thing. It wasn't. Watching Richard pull away from you broke my heart every single day. Watching you try so hard to earn his love, knowing you never would, destroyed me, but I didn't stop it. I made excuses. I pretended everything was fine. I lied to you, to myself, to everyone. And now I'm dying, and I can't fix it, can't undo the damage, can't give you back the childhood you deserved. All I can do is tell you the truth. You were never the problem. You were never too much, never not enough. You were perfect. You are perfect. Richard's coldness wasn't about you. It was about him, his cowardice, his inability to move past what he lost. And my lies weren't about you. They were about me, my shame, my guilt, my weakness. You deserved better, from both of us. I hope someday you can forgive me, but I'll understand if you can't. I love you more than anything in this world, more than my own life, more than my own happiness. And if I could go back and do it all differently, if I could be brave enough to leave, to give you a real family, to protect you from Richard's resentment, I would. But I can't. All I can do is hope you find happiness despite me. Hope you build a life full of love and joy, and people who see you for the incredible person you are. Be braver than I was, Emma. Choose love over fear. Choose truth over comfort. Choose yourself. Always, Mom. I set the let. Her down. My vision was blurred, tears dripping onto the pages. Jake appeared beside me, must have heard me crying. He didn't say anything, just wrapped his arms around me and held on while I fell apart. Because my mother knew. She knew what she'd done, knew how badly she'd failed me, knew I deserved better. And she was sorry. It didn't fix anything, didn't erase 32 years of pain, didn't bring her back so I could yell at her, so I could demand answers, so I could hear her apologize out loud instead of on paper. But it was something. A piece of truth in a lifetime of lies. And maybe, just maybe, it was enough to start healing. I woke up on the couch. Sunlight streamed through the windows. My neck hurt from the angle I'd slept at. The letter was still on the coffee table, folded, waiting. Jake was in the kitchen. I heard him moving around, smelled coffee brewing. Normal sounds, normal morning. Except nothing felt normal anymore. I sat up, rubbed my face. My eyes felt swollen from crying. Jake appeared with 2 mugs, set one in front of me, sat down beside me. How are you feeling? I picked up the coffee, let the warmth seep into my hands. I don't know yet. He nodded, didn't push. We sat in silence for a while, drinking coffee, watching dust particles float through the sunlight. I need to see her, I said finally. Your mom. Her grave. I need to talk to her. Jake squeezed my knee. You want me to come? No, I need to do this alone. Okay, he kissed my temple. Take your time. The cemetery was quiet. Monday morning. Most people at work. Just me and the dead and the groundskeeper mowing grass in the distance. Mom's grave was in the northeast section, under an oak tree. Simple headstone. Caroline Ann Morrison, beloved mother and wife. Wife. The word felt wrong now, a lie carved in granite. I stood in front of the grave, hands in my pockets, not sure what to say. The grass was freshly cut, smelled like summer, like the backyard where Mom used to garden while I played, before she got sick, before everything fell apart. Hey, Mom. My voice sounded strange, too loud in the quiet. I sat down on the grass, cross-legged, like a kid. I found your letter, found all the journals, talked to everyone. Sarah, Richard, Margaret, Linda. I pulled up grass blades, let them fall. I know everything now. A breeze moved through the oak tree. Leaves rustled. I'm angry at you. You know that, right? Angry that you lied. Angry that you let Richard treat me like I was invisible. Angry that you were too scared of your own mother to stand up for yourself. For me. Tears started again. I let them fall. But I also, my voice cracked, I also understand, not completely, maybe never completely, but I understand that you were human, flawed, scared, just trying to survive the choices you made. I wiped my face with my sleeve. You should have told me before you died, should have given me the letter yourself instead of hiding it in a journal. I deserve to hear it from you, to ask questions, to yell at you, I stopped, swallowed, to forgive you while you were still here. The groundskeeper's mower grew louder, then faded. I don't know if I can forgive you completely. Not yet, maybe not ever, but I can try to understand, can try to let go of the anger, can try to remember that you loved me, even when you failed me, you loved me. I stood, brushed grass off my jeans. I'm going to have a baby. Jake and we're going to try. And I promise you this, I won't make your mistakes. I won't lie to protect myself. Won't stay in something broken because I'm too scared to leave. Won't let anyone treat my child the way Richard treated me. I touched the headstone, cold granite under my palm. I'll be braver than you were, Mom, like you asked. I walked away, didn't look back. I called Richard from the car. He answered immediately. Emma. Can I come over, one more time? Pause. Yes, of course. Richard was waiting at the door again, but this time he looked different, smaller somehow, less intimidating. Or maybe I was just seeing him clearly for the first time. Come in, he said. We sat in the living room, same chairs, different energy. I read Mom's letter, I said. He nodded. I thought you might find it eventually. Did you know she wrote it? No, but it sounds like her. Taking responsibility, apologizing, trying to fix things even after she was gone. I studied his face, the lines around his eyes, the gray in his hair, the exhaustion that seemed permanent now. I'm not here to forgive you, I said. I want to make that clear. What you did, how you treated me, that's not something I can just let go. I understand. But I also don't want to spend the rest of my life hating you. That doesn't serve anyone, especially not me. Richard leaned forward, elbows on his knees. What are you saying? I'm saying we need boundaries, real ones. I can't have you in my life the way things were. Can't pretend we're a normal father and Dot. We're not, we never will be. I know. But maybe, I took a breath, maybe we can be something else, something honest. Two people who share DNA and a complicated past, who acknowledge what happened without pretending it didn't. Richard's eyes were wet. I'd like that. No more lies, no more pretending. If you can't handle something, you say so. If I need space, you respect it. We're adults. We can be honest with each other. Yes, okay, whatever you need. I stood. I'm going to have a baby. Jake and I are trying. And I need you to understand something. You won't be a grandfather in the traditional sense. You won't babysit, won't be at every birthday, won't be called grandpa. Pain flashed across his face, but he nodded. I understand. But if you want to be involved, in a limited way, I won't stop you. As long as you respect my boundaries, as long as you never make my child feel the way you made me feel. I swear to you, Emma, I would never. I know because I won't let you. I moved toward the door, stopped. One more thing. Anything. Have you talked to Sarah since she got married? Richard shook his head. No, it wouldn't be appropriate. Maybe it should be. Maybe you spent 30 years punishing yourself for something you could have let go. Maybe it's not too late to make peace with your past. Emma, I'm not saying get back together. I'm saying stop living like you're still 25 and trapped. You're 63. Mom's gone. I'm an adult. You're free. Act like it. I left before he could respond. I called Sarah that afternoon. She picked up on the second ring. Emma, is everything okay? Yeah, I wanted to thank you for talking to me, for being honest. Of course. How are you holding up? Better. I think it's complicated. It always is. I heard water running in the background. She was washing dishes maybe. Normal life sounds. Did you talk to Richard again? Yeah. Set some boundaries. Tried to figure out what kind of relationship we can have going forward. That's brave. I told him he should reach out to you. Silence, then. Why would you do that? Because he's spent 30 years stuck. And I don't know, maybe talking to you would help him move on. Finally. Sarah laughed softly. Emma, I moved on a long time ago. I have a husband, a family, a life I love. I know, but maybe he needs to hear that from you. Needs permission to let go. More silence. I'll think about it, Sarah said finally. No promises. That's all I'm asking. You're a good person, Emma. Better than any of us deserve. I'm just trying to break the cycle. Then you're already succeeding. We hung up. Linda called that evening. I'd been avoiding her messages, but I couldn't anymore. Emma, honey, talk to me. How are you? I'm okay, really. You don't sound okay. I sighed, sat down on the couch. Jake was out getting groceries. The apartment was quiet. I found Mom's letter, read the journals, confronted everyone. And I'm exhausted. Angry, sad, relieved, all of it. That sounds about right. Linda's voice was soft, gentle. You want to come over, we can talk or not talk, whatever you need. Yeah, okay. Linda's house smelled like cinnamon. She was baking something, always baking when she was stressed. She hugged me at the door, long and tight, the kind of hug that said more than words. We sat in her kitchen. She poured tea, set out cookies I wouldn't eat. I should have told you, she said. Years ago, should have pulled you aside and explained everything, but I thought. She stopped, shook her head. I thought it wasn't my place, thought your mother should be the one to tell you, and then she died, and it felt too late. It wasn't your secret to tell. But you were hurting. I watched you grow up trying so hard to please Richard, trying to be enough for a man who would never see you, and I said nothing. That makes me complicit. I reached across the table, took her hand. You were stuck, too, between your sister and your mother, between what was right and what was family. I don't blame you. Linda's eyes filled. You're more forgiving than I deserve. I'm not forgiving anyone. I'm just trying to understand. There's a difference. She squeezed my hand. Your mother would be proud of you, the woman you've become. I don't know about that. I do. You're braver than she ever was. Stronger. You're not letting this destroy you. You're facing it head on and choosing to move forward. That takes courage. I picked up my tea, let the warmth settle into my chest. Linda, can I ask you something? Anything. Do you think Mom was happy? Ever? Linda was quiet for a long moment. I think she had moments, with you, watching you grow up. Those were her happy moments, but overall, no, I don't think she was truly happy, and that's the tragedy. She spent her whole life sacrificing herself for everyone else, for her mother's approval, for Richard's comfort, for your stability, and in the end, she lost herself. I don't want that to be me. It won't be. You're already making different choices. How do you know? Because you're here, asking questions, demanding truth. Your mother never did that. She accepted what she was given and tried to make the best of it. You're fighting for something better. I thought about that, about Mom's letter, about her plea for me to be braver. Maybe I was. Maybe that was enough. Jake and I lay in bed that night, his arm around me, my head on his chest. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now we move forward, start trying for a baby, build our life." "What about Richard?" "He'll be in my life, but on my terms. Limited contact, clear boundaries. He doesn't get to hurt me anymore." "And your mom, how do you feel about her?" I thought about the question, really thought about it. "I'm angry, but I also understand that she did the best she could with what she had. She wasn't perfect. She made terrible choices, but she loved me, and maybe that's enough to start healing." Jake kissed the top of my head. "You're incredible, you know that." "I'm just tired of carrying other people's guilt." "That's what makes you incredible." I smiled, small, tentative, the first real smile in days. "I want our kid to grow up different," I said. "No lies, no secrets, no pretending everything's fine when it's not." "Agreed." "And if we mess up, because we will, we own it, we apologize. We don't make them carry our mistakes." "Absolutely." I turned to look at him. "You really want this, with me, knowing how complicated my family is?" Jake cupped my face. "I want this with you, complicated family and all. We'll figure it out together." Together. Together. 3 months later, I got a text from Sarah. "I met Richard for coffee. We talked. It was good. Thank you for pushing me to do it." I smiled, texted back. "How is he?" "Better, I think. Lighter. He said talking to me helped him let go of a lot of guilt. We're not getting back together, obviously, but we made peace. That's something." "That's everything." "You're wise beyond your years, Emma." "I had good teachers. Even the bad ones taught me something." Sarah sent a heart emoji. Then, "How are you?" "Pregnant, 8 weeks." "Congratulations. That's wonderful news." "Thanks. I'm terrified and excited and nauseous all the time." "That sounds about right. You'll be a great mother." I set my phone down, touched my stomach, barely showing yet, but there. A tiny life growing inside me. A life that would grow up differently than I did. With honesty, with boundaries, with parents who chose each other and chose them. No lies, no secrets, no resentment. Just love. Complicated, messy, imperfect love. But real. I went back to Mom's grave one more time. Stood under the oak tree, sunlight filtering through leaves. "I'm pregnant, Mom. You're going to be a grandmother, sort of. I mean, you're gone, but you would have been." I touched the headstone again, traced her name with my finger. "I'm going to do things differently, but I'll also do some things the way you did. The good things, the love, the sacrifice, just not all the sacrifice, not to the point where I lose myself." A bird landed on a nearby branch, chirped once, flew away. "I forgive you, not completely, not for everything, but enough. Enough to let go of the anger, enough to remember the good parts, enough to move forward." Tears came again, but different this time, softer, cleaner. "Thank you for loving me, even when you couldn't show it the way I needed, even when you made mistakes. You loved me, I know that now." I kissed my fingers, pressed them to the stone. "Rest easy, Mom. I've got it from here." That night, Jake and I sat on the couch, his hand on my stomach, my head on his shoulder. "What should we name them?" he asked. "I don't know yet. Something strong. Something that means new beginning." "I like that." We sat in comfortable silence, the TV on low, city lights twinkling outside our window. "Emma." "Yeah." "You're going to be an amazing mom." I thought about my mother, about her mistakes and her love and her final letter. Thought about Richard, about his coldness and his regret and his slow steps toward redemption. Thought about myself, about the scared little girl who spent 30 years trying to be enough for people who couldn't see her. and about the woman I'd become, the one who demanded truth, who set boundaries, who refused to carry guilt that wasn't hers. I hope so, I said. I really hope so. Jake squeezed my hand. I know so. And maybe, just maybe, he was right. Because I'd spent 32 years living in other people's truths. Now it was time to build my own. Not perfect, not without scars, not without the weight of everything that came before. But mine. Honest, real, free. And that was enough. If you've ever discovered a truth that shattered everything you thought you knew about your family, you understand this feeling. The anger, the grief, the slow, painful process of rebuild. Ing yourself from the pieces. But here's what I learned. You don't have to forgive to move forward. You don't have to forget to heal. You just have to decide that their mistakes won't define your future. That their choices won't become your prison. That you deserve better, and you're brave enough to create it. So if you're standing in the wreckage of a family secret right now, if you're questioning everything and everyone, know this. You're not alone. You're not crazy. And you will survive this. One truth at a time. One boundary at a time. One brave choice at a time. Until the day you wake up and realize you're not carrying their weight anymore. You're just carrying yourself. And that's when you're finally free.